I'm Rebecca Anderson, 32, and I'll never forget the shock on my parents' faces when they saw me on CNBC, the same parents who handed me disownment papers on my 18th birthday. My father's words still echo. You'll never amount to anything without us. 14 years later, as I announced my company's billion-dollar valuation, I spotted them in the audience, their mouths hanging open. Sometimes revenge isn't planned, it's just the spectacular byproduct of proving someone wrong. Before I dive into my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you're ready for a journey of betrayal, resilience, and sweet, unexpected success. Trust me, this family drama makes reality TV look tame. Growing up in Greenwich, Connecticut, meant living in a world of old money and even older expectations. The Anderson name carried weight, but that weight felt more like chains around my neck than wings on my back. My parents, Richard and Catherine Anderson, weren't just wealthy, they were obsessed with legacy. Our sprawling colonial home might as well have been a museum dedicated to family achievement, with portraits of successful ancestors lining the hallway like silent judges. From my earliest memories, I understood the unspoken hierarchy in our household. My father, a senior partner at one of Manhattan's most prestigious law firms, ruled with quiet intimidation. His disappointed sighs carried more punishment than any yelling could. My mother, a former debutante turned philanthropist, weaponized etiquette and social standing against anyone who stepped out of line, including her own daughter. Then there were my brothers, James and William, 5 and 3 years older than me. They were the golden boys, the perfect Anderson heirs. James followed our father into law, graduating Harvard with honors. William chose finance, becoming the youngest portfolio manager at his firm. At family dinners, their accomplishments were served as the main course, while my achievements barely qualified as appetizers. Rebecca has such creative ideas, my mother would say with that tight smile that never reached her eyes. It's cute how she thinks outside the box. Cute. That word followed me through childhood like an unwanted shadow. My lemonade stand that expanded to 3 locations? Cute. My handmade jewelry business that earned enough to buy my first laptop? Adorable, but not serious. The app I developed at 16 that helps students coordinate study groups? A nice hobby, but nothing that would build a real career. Anderson men build empires. My father would remind us during his after-dinner scotch. Anderson women support those empires and raise the next generation of builders. The way he'd look at me made it clear I was expected to fall in line. High school became a battleground of expectations. My perfect SAT scores earned a nod. My debate team championships were acceptable because they showed proper Anderson persuasive skills. But when I won the state entrepreneurship competition, with a business plan for a tech platform, my parents skipped the ceremony. We had the Whittington's charity gala. My mother explained afterward, adjusting her pearl necklace. You know how important these connections are for your future. Speaking of which, Margaret Whittington's daughter just got accepted to Harvard pre-law. Such a sensible girl. The comparisons were constant. At every society function, my mother would parade me past daughters of family friends, girls with straight hair and straight career paths who never questioned the narrow futures laid out for them. You could learn something from Charlotte. She'd whisper harshly, while maintaining her social smile. She understands her responsibility to her family name. My senior year brought the tension to a breaking point. College applications became the battlefield, where my future would be decided. During a formal family dinner in November, arranged specifically to discuss my educational strategy, my father laid out his vision. I've spoken to Dean Harrington at Harvard Law, he announced, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. Has agreed to review your application personally. The Anderson legacy continues. I set down my fork carefully. I'm applying to Stanford's business program. I've already submitted my application. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the household staff seemed to freeze. You did what? My mother's voice was barely above a whisper. I want to study business, technology, entrepreneurship. The words tumbled out faster as I gained momentum. I've already developed 2 apps and built a customer base. Stanford has the best program for what I want to do. My father's face remained impassive, but a muscle twitched in his jaw. Rebecca, perhaps we haven't made ourselves clear. You are an Anderson. Andersons practice law, or, occasionally, finance. We do not dabble in startups. He said the word like it was distasteful. I'm not asking for your permission, I replied, surprised by my steady voice. I'm informing you of my decision. William looked down at his plate. James studied our father's reaction, ready to align himself with the winning side. "Well, discuss this later," my father said finally, his tone indicating the matter was far from closed. But I knew then that the battle lines had been drawn. What I didn't know was that my parents were already preparing their nuclear option, one they would deploy on what should have been the happiest day of my young life. My 18th birthday fell on a perfect spring Saturday. The morning dawned with deceptive brightness, sunlight streaming through my bedroom windows as if promising a day of celebration. My mother had planned an elaborate garden party not because I wanted one, but because it was appropriate for an Anderson daughter coming of age. The house staff had been working for days, transforming our already immaculate backyard into something from a magazine spread. White roses everywhere, crystal champagne flutes, a string quartet playing classical music that no 18-year-old actually wanted to hear. This party wasn't for me, it was for my parents, to showcase their perfect family to their perfect friends. I played along, wearing the pale blue dress my mother had selected, my hair styled in the conservative way she preferred. But underneath, I was buzzing with excitement. 2 days earlier, I had received my acceptance letter from Stanford. Full merit scholarship. The validation I'd been seeking for years had arrived in a simple email that I'd read approximately 50 times since. Today, I decided, I would make my announcement public. With all their friends as witnesses, my parents wouldn't be able to dismiss my achievement or pressure me into changing my mind. It was manipulative, perhaps, but I'd learned from the best. The party began at noon. By 2, our backyard was filled with Connecticut's elite judges, executives, politicians, all mingling with practiced smiles and calculated conversations. I moved through the crowd, accepting birthday wishes that felt more like business transactions than genuine goodwill. "There she is." My father's booming voice cut through the ambient chatter as he clinked a fork against his champagne glass. "Our birthday girl." Everyone turned, raising their glasses toward me with robotic synchronicity. My father placed his arm around my shoulders, squeezing a little too tightly. 18 years ago, Catherine and I were blessed with our beautiful daughter," he continued, his public voice warm and charming, so different from his household tone. "And today, we're proud to announce that Rebecca will be continuing the Anderson legacy at Harvard Law, just as her brother James did before her." The crowd murmured approvingly. My muscles tensed under his grip. "Actually," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I have an announcement of my own." My father's smile remained fixed, but his fingers dug into my shoulder. "I've been accepted to Stanford University's business program. Full merit scholarship." I stepped away from his grasp. "I'll be studying technology entrepreneurship this fall." The silence lasted only seconds before my mother's nervous laugh broke it. "Oh, Rebecca has such a wonderful sense of humor. Always keeping us on our toes." "It's not a joke, Mother," I said firmly. "I've accepted their offer." My father's face darkened, but he maintained his public facade. "Well, this is certainly unexpected. We'll discuss options later. For now, let's enjoy this beautiful celebration." The party continued, but the temperature had dropped 20 degrees despite the spring sunshine. I caught fragments of whispered conversations. "Always been a difficult child. Such a shame for Richard and Catherine. Throwing away generations of connections." By evening, as the last guests departed, the storm clouds had gathered both literally in the darkening sky and figuratively in my father's expression. As soon as the final luxury car pulled away from our circular driveway, he turned to me. "My study." Now. The walk to his study felt like a death march. My mother and brothers followed behind, a somber procession. I'd been in that wood-paneled room countless times, but never had it felt so suffocating. My father took his place behind his massive mahogany desk, a power position he'd perfected over decades. My mother stood beside him, a united front. James and William positioned themselves by the door, as if preventing escape. "You deliberately humiliated us today," my father began, his voice controlled but vibrating with anger. "I announced my college plans," I countered. "Most parents would be proud." "Don't be obtuse," my mother snapped. "You intentionally blindsided us in front of everyone who matters. After we explicitly told you Harvard was the only acceptable option," my father added. "It's my life," I insisted. "My future. Your future." My father laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Your future exists because of this family. Your opportunities exist because of our name, our connections, our money, which is why I earned a merit scholarship on my own." He ignored this, opening a drawer and removing a folder. Your rebellion leaves us no choice, Rebecca. He slid the folder across the desk toward me. Inside was a document with the Anderson family attorney's letterhead. My eyes caught phrases in the legal text. Hereby disown. Termination of financial support. Relinquishment of family obligation. What is this? I asked, though the answer was painfully clear. You have a choice. My father said coldly. Harvard Law and your place in this family, or Stanford and this. He tapped the document. I looked up at my mother, searching for any softness in her expression. There was none. You're destroying this family, she said, tears welling in her eyes, tears I now recognize as manipulative rather than genuine. After everything we've done for you. I turned to my brothers. William looked uncomfortable but remained silent. James stepped forward. Stop being selfish, Becky, he said, using the childhood nickname Id always hated. You're breaking Mom's heart with this stunt. This isn't a stunt, I whispered, my voice failing me. This is my dream. Dreams don't pay for Ivy League educations or maintain family connections, my father said dismissively. Reality does. And the reality is, you have until tomorrow morning to make your decision. Harvard and your trust fund, or Stanford and nothing. Not a penny, not our name, not our home. I stared at the document, the words blurring as tears filled my eyes. You'd disown me? Your own daughter? Over a college choice. This isn't about college, my father replied. It's about loyalty and respect. Values you clearly lack. I picked up the folder with trembling hands. And if I sign this, you'll need to be out by noon tomorrow. We've already contacted the school to rescind your recommendation letters. The calculated cruelty of it, they'd prepared this before the party. Knowing how I would respond felt like a physical blow. It'll give you privacy to consider your options, my father said. Standing. Though I don't see what there is to consider. No one succeeds without family backing. Certainly not a naive 18-year-old girl with delusions of Silicon Valley grandeur. They filed out, leaving me alone with the document that asked me to choose between my identity and my dreams. I sat there for hours, the grandfather clock in the corner marking time with indifferent precision. By dawn, I had made my decision. I hadn't slept, but clarity had come in the darkness. I packed one suitcase with essentials, took the laptop I'd paid for myself, and left the disownment papers unsigned on my father's desk with a single line written across them. I'll succeed despite you, not because of you. Stanford's campus was beautiful, but I couldn't appreciate it. Arriving in California with one suitcase and rapidly dwindling savings changed my perspective on everything. While other freshmen were decorating dorm rooms with parents' help or complaining about cafeteria food, I was frantically searching for affordable housing and jobs that wouldn't interfere with my classes. I found a cramped apartment in East Palo Alto, a far cry from the safe, affluent neighborhoods surrounding campus. 4 of us shared a 2-bedroom unit, meant for 2 people at most. My roommates were all working students. Megan, a nursing major who worked night shifts. Zoe, a computer science student with 3 part-time jobs. And Dana, a future teacher who cleaned houses on weekends. You can have the left side of the closet, Zoe told me when I arrived, pointing to a space barely wide enough for a few hangers. We shared not just a room, but a mattress on the floor. She slept on it during the day when I was at class, and I used it at night when she worked her overnight tech support job. My first week, I landed 3 jobs. Morning shifts at a coffee shop near campus, evening waitressing at a diner, and weekend work entering data for a local insurance company. Between them, I could just cover rent, basic food, and textbooks. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Classes were both my escape and my challenge. While I excelled academically, the divide between me and my classmates became increasingly apparent. They went to networking events. I served them coffee. They joined clubs and built connections. I calculated tips and stretched ramen packets to last 3 meals. During my Entrepreneurship 101 course, Professor Sarah Mendez noticed me falling asleep despite my best efforts to stay awake. Miss Anderson, she said after class, a word, please. I prepared for the worst, another authority figure telling me I wasn't measuring up. You submitted the best business concept I've seen in years, she said instead, yet you can barely stay conscious in my lectures. What's going on? Something about her direct but kind approach broke through my carefully constructed walls. Before I could stop myself, I was telling her everything, the disownment, the jobs, the apartment situation. Instead of pity, her face showed something I hadn't received from an adult in years: respect. "You're working harder than anyone I know," she said. "But you're working so hard to survive that you can't build. That needs to change." She pulled out her card. "My office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays. Come by." "Well, figure this out, Doctor." Mendez became my first real mentor. She helped me refine my business platform idea, a technology that would help small businesses compete with larger corporations by pooling resources and sharing data. She introduced me to graduate students who needed help with research, paying better than my service jobs. She even arranged for me to move into university-subsidized housing, cutting my rent in half. "This isn't charity," she insisted, when I tried to refuse her help. "This is investment in talent. There's a difference." With slightly more breathing room, I threw myself into developing my business platform. I coded between classes, during lunch breaks, late into the night. My first prototype was rough but functional, a simple interface that allowed small businesses to share shipping costs and combine purchasing power. I met Noah during my sophomore year. He was studying international business, charming and supportive. For 6 months, things were good. I finally had someone in my corner, someone who seemed to understand my drive. "You need to slow down," he said eventually, as I canceled our plans for the third weekend in a row to work on my platform. "There's more to life than this business idea." "Not for me," I replied. "This isn't just a business, it's my future, my freedom." The relationship ended a week later. "I can't compete with your company," were his parting words. "It will always come first." He was right. My drive wasn't just about success, it was about survival. About proving my worth in the most definitive way possible. The first real betrayal came from Amber, a classmate who'd become a close friend. We'd spent countless hours discussing business ideas, and she'd seen every iteration of my platform. I trusted her. Then came the entrepreneurship showcase. As I prepared to present my work, I saw Amber at another booth demonstrating a platform nearly identical to mine, but with slicker graphics and a catchier name. "You have to understand," she said when I confronted her. Not quite meeting my eyes. "Business is business. Your idea was good, but you were moving too slowly. I have connections you don't." Those connections included venture capitalists who funded her startup with $250,000 in seed money before the showcase ended. I watched as they circled her booth, these men in expensive suits who wouldn't even glance my way. That night, I cried for the first time since leaving home. Not delicate tears, but ugly, body-shaking sobs that left me hollow. Zoe found me like that, curled on our shared mattress. "Get up," she said, not unkindly. "This isn't over." "She stole everything," I whispered. "She stole version 1. Zoe corrected. "So build version 2. Make it better. Make it so good she looks like the pale imitation she is." I looked up at her, this girl who worked 3 jobs and still maintained a 4 gigapascals, and felt something shift inside me. If my own family couldn't break me, I wouldn't let a college betrayal finish the job. That night, fueled by a combination of rage, determination, and Zoe's endless supply of energy drinks, I began rebuilding. Not just reimagining my platform, but reimagining myself. Rebecca Anderson, too stronger, smarter, and a whole lot less trusting. Graduation day arrived with mixed emotions. While my classmates celebrated with family photos and champagne toasts, I stood alone in my cap and gown, watching from the periphery. Dr. Mendez found me there, away from the crowds. "I have something for you," she said, handing me a small box. Inside was a business card holder, engraved with my name and a simple message: "Build your own legacy." "The corporate recruiters have been asking about you," she continued. "Google, Apple, even some consulting firms. With your GPA and your prototypes, you could write your own ticket." "I'm not looking for a job," I told her. "I'm starting my company." She smiled, unsurprised. "I thought you might say that, which is why I've arranged for you to pitch to some contacts of mine next week. Small investors, but open-minded." That summer became a blur of pitches, rejections, reworking, and more pitches. I moved into an even smaller apartment, cutting expenses to the bone to make my savings last longer. My dining room table became my office, my bedroom doubling as a server room with equipment bought secondhand. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. I was presenting at a small entrepreneurship forum when Zoe Franklin walked in, my former roommate who'd graduated a year before me and landed a job at a major tech company. Your platform has potential, she said after my presentation, but your UX needs serious work. I'm not exactly flush with design resources, I replied dryly. You don't need to be. She handed me her company ID. I quit this morning. I want in on whatever you're building. Just like that, I had a business partner. Zoe moved into my tiny apartment, her salary savings giving us a few months' runway. We worked from my garage, the ultimate Silicon Valley cliché, redesigning the platform from the ground up. Users don't just want efficiency, Zoe argued during one of our marathon planning sessions. They want community, connection. Your original idea connected businesses for practical purposes. What if we expanded it to create an entire ecosystem? She was right. Together, we rebuilt the platform to include not just resource sharing but community features, mentorship matching, and collaborative problem-solving tools. Small Sphere was born, a digital universe where small businesses could find everything they needed to compete with corporate giants. Our first breakthrough came when Jack Reynolds, an angel investor known for taking chances on female founders, agreed to meet us. His $150,000 investment wasn't huge by Silicon Valley standards, but it meant we could move operations out of my garage and into a small office space, hire a developer, and start recruiting beta testers. The first 50 businesses that joined our platform were local restaurants, boutiques, service providers from around Palo Alto. We worked directly with each one, customizing features, addressing bugs, celebrating their small victories as our own. Word spread. By our 6th month, we had 300 businesses on the platform. Revenue was still minimal, we charged only a small subscription fee, but our metrics were strong. User engagement was off the charts. Businesses reported cost savings averaging 23% after joining our network. Then came the email from James. Hey Becky, it began, using that hated childhood nickname. Long time no speak. Heard through the grapevine that you've got something interesting going on out there in California. I'm in San Francisco next week for a conference. Coffee. Alarm bells rang immediately. My brother hadn't contacted me once in 4 years. Now suddenly he was interested in my company? Against Zoe's advice, I agreed to meet him. The upscale cafe he suggested was walking distance from our modest office, but worlds away in ambiance. James arrived in a perfectly tailored suit, looking every inch the successful attorney our father had groomed him to be. You look good, he said, studying me. Different, but good. What do you want, James? I asked, skipping the pleasantries. His smile faltered slightly. Can't a brother check in on his sister? My brother watched silently as his parents disowned me on my birthday. So again, what do you want? He sighed, dropping the act. Dad knows about your company. Has been keeping tabs on you. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. How? Does it matter? The point is, he's concerned. Concerned. I laughed bitterly. About what? That I might succeed without his help. About the Anderson name being attached to a, what did he call it? A glorified networking site for failing businesses. James at least had the decency to look uncomfortable repeating our father's words. Small Sphere has nothing to do with the Anderson name. I built this myself. Dad thinks otherwise. He believes your success, if you achieve any, will reflect on the family. I was very clearly informed that I'm not part of the family. James leaned forward. Look, he sent me to offer a deal. Come back to Connecticut. Shut this down. Hell, reinstate your trust fund and pretend the past few years never happened. The audacity was breathtaking. So I can do what, exactly? Marry some appropriate man, and host charity galas like Mom. Is that so terrible? Financial security, social standing, family support. For a moment, just the briefest moment, I felt the pull of the easy path. No more constant hustling, no more ramen dinners, no more pitch rejections. Then I thought of Zoe, of our beta users who were counting on us, of Dr. Mendez who had believed in me when no one else did. Tell Dad thanks, but no thanks. I'm doing fine without the Anderson name or money. Jameis' expression hardened. He thought you might say that. He wanted me to remind you that he has connections everywhere, including Silicon Valley, investors, clients, media. He let the implied threat hang in the air. Are you telling me he'd actively try to sabotage my business? Even from my father, this seemed extreme. I'm telling you he protects what's his. The family reputation matters more than anything. I stood up, leaving my untouched coffee on the table. Then he has nothing to worry about. I'm not his, and neither is my company. I walked back to our office in a daze, Jameis' warning echoing in my mind. When I told Zoe about the encounter, Her normally cheerful face grew serious. "We need to prepare," she said. "Your father sounds like exactly the kind of person who would follow through on that kind of threat." She was right. Within weeks, we noticed potential investors suddenly canceling meetings. A small business publication that had agreed to feature us ran a surprisingly negative piece instead. 3 enterprise clients backed out of contracts at the last minute, all giving different but equally vague reasons. "It's him," I told Zoe after the 3rd cancellation. "Hez actually doing it." Rather than discouraging us, the sabotage became our motivation. We worked longer hours, improved our platform, and focused on clients too small or independent to be influenced by my father's connections. We built our business one tiny account at a time, cultivating fierce loyalty among users who didn't care about the Anderson name one way or another. My father had taught me an unintended lesson. When the front door is blocked, find another way in. So that's exactly what we did. A year and a half after our coffee shop confrontation, SmallSphere was thriving despite my father's interference. We had moved to larger offices, still modest by Silicon Valley standards, but a major upgrade from our garage days. Our team had grown to 12 people, each bringing unique talents and perspectives to the company. Our platform now connected over 2,000 small businesses nationwide, with a waiting list growing daily. We had expanded beyond simple resource sharing to include micro-lending between businesses, skill exchanges, and localized marketing collaborations. The Small Business Administration had even featured us in a case study on innovative support systems for entrepreneurs. Most importantly, we were finally approaching profitability. The constant pressure of making payroll was easing as our subscription revenue steadily increased. For the first time since leaving home, I felt like I could breathe. That's when my father escalated. It started with an email from our largest investor, Jack Reynolds. "Need to talk. Urgent. My office, 9 a.m. Jack had been our champion from the beginning, the first significant investor to take a chance on us. His early-stage funding had legitimized SmallSphere when we needed it most. Now, as I sat across from him in his tastefully minimalist office, I barely recognized the warm, enthusiastic mentor who had believed in our vision. "I'm pulling my investment," he said without preamble, not quite meeting my eyes. "What? Why? Our metrics are stronger than ever. We're on track to." "It's not about the metrics, Rebecca." He slid a folder across his desk, an echo of that fateful moment in my father's study years ago. "I received this yesterday." Inside was a detailed report on alleged security vulnerabilities in our platform, complete with screenshots and technical specifications. It looked devastating to anyone who didn't know our system intimately. "This is fabricated," I said, scanning the contents. "These vulnerabilities don't exist in our architecture. We don't even use this programming framework." "Can you prove that?" "Of course I can. Give me a day to prepare a rebuttal." "I've already made my decision." His tone was final. The report came from Sentinel Security Group. They're the gold standard in tech security assessment. The name hit like a physical blow. Sentinel Security was owned by William Harrington, my father's college roommate and lifelong friend. "Jack, this is a personal attack. My father is Richard Anderson," he finished for me. "Yes. I've recently been made aware of that connection. Or rather, your disconnection." His expression softened slightly. "You should have told me, Rebecca. Would it have mattered? Our product stands on its own merits, perhaps, but trust is everything in this business. You're an Anderson who claims no ties to the Anderson fortune or connections. It raises questions. About what? My integrity? The fact that I built this from nothing instead of riding my family's coattails." He sighed. "The optics are problematic. And with these security concerns, fabricated concerns," I interjected, "I can't maintain my position. I'm sorry." I left his office in a daze. Jack's investment wasn't just money, it was credibility. Other investors would follow his lead. And they did. Within a week, we lost 80% of our funding. Our runway, which had seemed comfortably long just days before, suddenly shortened to mere months. Then came the press. Someone it wasn't hard to guess who had tipped off tech blogs about the security crisis at SmallSphere. Headlines appeared overnight. SmallSphere. Big security risks for small businesses. Tech startup exposed. Your data at risk industry experts. Question SmallSphere's viability. After security report. We issued statements, published our security protocols, even invited independent auditors to verify our systems. But the damage was spreading faster than we could contain it. Businesses began leaving the platform, afraid of compromising their data. I was in the middle of an emergency team meeting when Taylor, our head of client relations and someone I considered a close friend, asked to speak with me privately. "Your brother called me," she said once we were alone in my office. "James?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. She nodded. "He said they're willing to pay me a year's salary if I provide them with our client database and internal communications." My stomach dropped. "Tell me you didn't." "Of course not," she interrupted, looking hurt. "But Rebecca," he knew things. Personal things about me that aren't public. "They've been investigating all of us, looking for pressure points." The invasion felt violating in a way that even the funding loss hadn't. These were my people, my chosen family being targeted because of me. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "It's not your fault," she said firmly. "But you need to know what we're up against." What we were against became brutally clear the next day when our servers were hacked. Despite our robust security measures, someone had found a way in, not to steal data that would have been almost preferable. Instead, they corrupted our codebase, introduced bugs into our platform, and erased months of development work. Aiden, our lead developer, worked for 72 hours straight, trying to recover what he could. "Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing," he said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "They targeted our proprietary algorithms specifically. The parts that make SmallSphere unique." The final blow came when we couldn't make payroll. I gathered the team in our increasingly empty office. Several employees had already left for more stable opportunities and delivered the hardest speech of my life. "I can't ask you to stay without pay," I concluded, fighting back tears. "You've all given so much to SmallSphere. You deserve better than this." One by one, they filed out of the conference room, some with hugs, some with tears, some with quiet promises to return when things turn around. By evening, only Zoe remained, stubbornly refusing to leave. "We're not done," she insisted, though the dark circles under her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. "Look around, Zoe. We have no money, no team, no functioning product. What's left to fight for? The idea, the vision, all those businesses that need us." She grabbed my shoulders. "And the chance to prove your father wrong. Don't tell me you're ready to give him this victory." I stared at our office, the empty desks, the motivational posters that now seemed mockingly optimistic, the whiteboards filled with plans we could no longer execute. "Maybe he was right," I whispered, the admission burning my throat. "Maybe no one succeeds without family backing. Especially not a naive girl with delusions of Silicon Valley grandeur." Zoe slapped me. Not hard, but enough to shock me out of my spiral. "That's not you talking," she said fiercely. "That's him. And I refuse to let Richard Anderson win from 3,000 miles away." I rubbed my cheek, a strange laugh bubbling up from somewhere deep inside me. "Did you just slap me back to my senses?" "Someone had to," she shrugged. "Now, are we giving up? Or are we figuring out our next move?" That night, alone in the empty office with only Zoe's unwavering belief keeping me going, I faced the hardest truth. SmallSphere, as it existed, was finished. My father had won this round. But the war wasn't over, not if I had anything to say about it. The next morning, I woke on the office couch to the sound of the front door opening, disoriented, and expecting more bad news. Perhaps the landlord coming to evict us. I was utterly unprepared for the sight of my grandmother, Elizabeth Anderson, standing in the doorway. "Your security is abysmal," she announced by way of greeting. Anyone could walk in here. I hadn't seen my grandmother since the Disownment. At 82, she looked exactly as I remembered, silver hair in a perfect bob, posture straight as a ruler, eyes sharp and assessing behind designer frames. "Grandma," I managed, trying to smooth my rumpled clothes. "How did you find you?" "Please, Rebecca. I may be old, but am not technologically illiterate." She surveyed the empty office with a critical eye. "Though I must say, this isn't quite the thriving enterprise your website suggests." Before I could respond, Zoe emerged from the back room, where she'd been sleeping. Rebecca? There's an elegant elderly lady giving us attitude." "Elizabeth Anderson," my grandmother supplied, extending her hand. "Rebecca's grandmother. And you must be the loyal friend who slapped some sense into her yesterday." Zoe's eyes widened. "How did I have my ways?" Grandma set her Hermes handbag on a desk and fixed me with a familiar, penetrating stare. "Richard has gone too far this time." The statement hung in the air, heavy with implication. "You know what he did." "I know, my son." She sighed, suddenly looking her age. "I've watched him destroy relationships, manipulate situations, and crush opposition throughout his career. It's made him very successful in corporate law. It's also made him insufferable as a human being. She gestured to the office around us. When I heard about this latest situation, I decided it was time to intervene. Did Dad send you? I asked, suspicion creeping in. Is this another attempt to bring me back to Connecticut? Your father has no idea I'm here. In fact, he believes I'm at my book club in Newport. A sly smile crossed her face. Which technically isn't untrue. I simply took a detour to California first. Zoe looked between us, fascinated. Okay, this family drama is next level. Grandma laughed, a sound I'd rarely heard during my childhood. You have no idea, dear. She turned back to me. Now, Rebecca, I need you to tell me everything. From the beginning. Over the next 2 hours, I detailed the systematic dismantling of Smallsphere, the pulled investments, the fabricated security report, the media smear campaign, the targeted hacking. Classic Richard, she muttered when I finished. He always did believe in overwhelming force. She opened her handbag and removed a checkbook. How much do you need to restart? I stared at her, stunned. Grandma, I can't take your money. Why not? It's my money, and I'll spend it how I please. She uncapped an expensive fountain pen. Your grandfather left me quite comfortable, and unlike your parents, I don't believe money should be used as a control mechanism. It's not that simple, I explained. We've lost our reputation, our team, months of development work. Money alone can't fix this. Perhaps not, she conceded, but it's a start. She wrote a check, tore it out, and placed it on the desk between us. I glanced down and nearly choked. The amount was 7 figures. Grandma, this is seed funding, she stated matter-of-factly. Consider me your angel investor. But why? You never opposed Dad before. Her expression softened. I made mistakes, Rebecca. When your father was growing up, I allowed your grandfather to be harsh with him. I thought it would make Richard stronger, more resilient. Instead, it made him believe that love and worth are conditional upon achievement and compliance. She reached across the desk and took my hand. I watched him do the same to you and your brothers. I said nothing when he disowned you because I was a coward. I'm trying to rectify that now. Tears pricked my eyes. I don't know what to say. Say you'll cash the check and rebuild your company. Say you'll prove to my bull-headed son that success comes in many forms. Zoe, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. Mom, with all due respect, there's more to rebuilding than money. We need a new team, new security infrastructure, and frankly, protection against further attacks from your son. Grandma turned her assessing gaze on Zoe. You remind me of myself at your age. Practical, direct. She reached back into her bag and pulled out a business card. This is Marcus Bailey, former NSA cybersecurity expert, now runs his own consulting firm. Tell him Elizabeth Anderson sent you. He'll help secure whatever you build next. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. With Grandma's check providing a runway, Zoe and I began rebuilding not Smallsphere, but something new from its ashes. We moved operations to a secure co-working space and implemented Marcus Bailey's cybersecurity recommendations, creating a digital fortress around our new venture. Your father is good, Marcus told us after assessing the previous attack, but he's using traditional corporate espionage tactics. We can build something he won't expect from a naive girl with Silicon Valley delusions. Id shared my father's words with Marcus, and had taken personal offense at them. A burly former military man with daughters of his own, he became one of our most passionate advocates. Aiden, our former lead developer, returned when he heard we were restarting. My new job is boring as hell, he admitted, and I never got to finish what we started. With him came Taylor, who brought valuable insights from her brief time at a competitor. They're doing everything wrong, she reported gleefully. They don't understand small businesses at all. One by one, our core team reassembled, drawn back by a combination of unfinished business and the substantial salaries we could now offer thanks to Grandma's investment. But our most unexpected ally came in the form of William, my middle brother, who showed up unannounced one rainy afternoon. James told me what Dad's been doing, he said, looking uncomfortable in our decidedly non-corporate workspace. It's wrong, Becky. It's always been wrong. I studied my brother's face, searching for signs of deception. Why the change of heart? He sighed heavily. I've been watching you. Reading about what you built, what Dad destroyed. He met my eyes directly. He did the same thing to a company I invested in last year. A competitor to one of his clients. Crushed them completely. And you're just now having moral qualms. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. I'm trying to do the right thing, he said quietly. For once. After extensive vetting by Marcus and some intense team discussions, we cautiously accepted William's offer of help. His knowledge of our father's tactics proved invaluable as we built countermeasures into our new business model. Dad thinks in terms of traditional power structures. William explained during a strategy session. Hierarchies, central points of control, identifiable targets. So don't give him any. This insight led to our greatest innovation. A decentralized platform structure that couldn't be taken down by attacking any single point. We rebuilt our business model from the ground up, creating a distributed network rather than a central platform. The new company, Phoenix Network, would be owned in part by the small businesses themselves. Each member would host a portion of the system, creating a web of interconnected nodes that strengthened as it grew. It's not just more secure technically, Zoe explained to our expanding team, it's more secure strategically. Richard Anderson can target a company. He can target a person. But how does he target thousands of small businesses simultaneously? As Phoenix took shape, I found myself surrounded by something I'd never truly had before, a chosen family of people who believed in me, not because of my name or potential, but because of what I'd already proven I could do. Grandma visited regularly, offering both financial advice and the occasional cutting remark about my father. He gets his stubbornness from your grandfather, she confided during one visit, but you get yours from me. And I've never lost a battle I truly cared about. With our team assembled, our security fortified, and our new business model taking shape, we were ready to re-enter the market, not as wounded victims of corporate sabotage, but as innovators with a revolutionary approach to business networking. The question wasn't if we would succeed, but how spectacularly and how publicly we would do it. 6 months after Grandma's unexpected appearance, Phoenix Network launched with little fanfare. We deliberately kept a low profile, inviting only our most loyal former SmallSphere users to join the beta. This selective approach wasn't just about testing, it was strategic. The quieter our initial growth, the less likely my father would notice us re-emerging. Our decentralized model resonated immediately. Small business owners loved the idea of having ownership in the platform rather than just being users. Each new member strengthened our network, both technically and communally. This is genius, said Maria, the owner of a family bakery in San Jose, and one of our first beta testers. I'm not just saving money by sharing resources. I'm actually building equity in something bigger than my shop. The Phoenix model differed fundamentally from SmallSphere. Where SmallSphere had connected businesses for practical purposes, Phoenix created a genuine cooperative. Members shared not just shipping costs and bulk orders, but also invested collectively in technology, marketing, and even healthcare plans that none could afford individually. Within 3 months, we had 500 businesses on board. By 6 months, 2,000. The network effect was powerful. Each new business brought its own connections and resources, accelerating growth exponentially. Our first major breakthrough came when a consortium of independent bookstores joined collectively. Struggling against Amazon's dominance, they used Phoenix to create a united inventory system, allowing any customer to order any book from any store within the network, with fulfillment handled by whichever location had the book in stock. We've increased sales by 37%, their spokesperson reported in a trade publication, and cut costs by 22%. Phoenix literally saved our businesses. That article caught the attention of Veronica Lange, a legendary venture capitalist known for backing unicorns. Her email arrived on a Tuesday morning, requesting a meeting at her Sand Hill Road office. She doesn't take pitches, Zoe whispered as we prepared our presentation. She summons founders like a queen calling peasants to court. Good thing we're not peasants, I replied with more confidence than I felt. Veronica's office befitted her reputation, understated but unmistakably expensive, with views overlooking Stanford University. The woman herself was equally impressive. Tall, silver-haired, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to evaluate our net worth on sight. SmallSphere was interesting, she began without preamble. Phoenix is revolutionary. Explain to me why I should invest before someone else does. For the next hour, Zoe and I detailed our model, our growth metrics, and our vision for the future. Veronica interrupted frequently with razor-sharp questions that tested both our business acumen and our resolve. Your distributed ownership model sacrifices centralized control, she noted. Most founders wouldn't risk that. Most founders want to build empires, I replied. We want to build ecosystems. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. And what about your father? The question blindsided me. Excuse me, Richard Anderson. She leaned back in her chair. I sit on 3 boards with him. Hess mentioned his estranged daughter dabbling in tech startups. I assume that's you. My stomach dropped. Had this entire meeting been a setup? My relationship with my father is irrelevant to Phoenix business model, I managed to say. On the contrary, Veronica countered. It's entirely relevant. He systematically destroyed your last company. Yet here you are, building something even more ambitious. That tells me everything I need to know about your resilience. She named a figure that made even Grandma's generous check look modest. 20% equity, non-controlling interest, and my personal guarantee that Richard Anderson will not interfere again. How can you promise that? I asked, suspicious. Her smile turned predatory. Because unlike you, I have enough dirt on your father to ensure his cooperation. Let's just say that some of his firm's more creative legal maneuvers wouldn't withstand public scrutiny. We left with a term sheet and a powerful ally. Veronica's investment made headlines in tech publications. Phoenix Network secures $25M from Lang Ventures, from ashes to unicorn. Phoenix Remarkable Resurrection Distributed Business Network, disrupting traditional models. The funding allowed us to expand rapidly. We moved to proper headquarters in Palo Alto, nothing flashy, but spacious and secure. Our team grew to 50 people, then 75. We launched specialized verticals for restaurants, independent retailers, service providers, and creative professionals. As we approached the 1-year mark since our launch, Phoenix crossed a significant threshold. $1 billion in total transaction volume processed through our network. The valuation that accompanied our next funding round officially made us a unicorn, a startup valued at over $1 billion. The success brought unwelcome attention from my family. My mother reached out first, through an email so perfectly crafted it could only have been written by her social secretary. Darling Rebecca. It began. As if the disownment had never happened. Your father and I have been following your accomplishments with great pride. We'd love to reconnect, and perhaps discuss how the Anderson family might support your thriving enterprise. I showed the email to William, who had become our chief strategy officer after proving his loyalty beyond doubt. Classic mother, he snorted. Now that you're successful, she wants to pretend it was the plan all along. What should I do? I asked. Nothing, he advised. They're fishing. Dad can't attack Phoenix directly thanks to Veronica, so they're trying another angle claiming family connection to share in your success. He was right. As Phoenix continued to grow, my parents became increasingly bold in their attempts to associate themselves with my success. My mother gave an interview to Connecticut Society magazine where she spoke about our daughter, the tech entrepreneur, and how Anderson innovation runs in the blood. The final straw came when my father's firm issued a press release announcing a new technology innovation division headed by James, with a quote suggesting his family connection to Phoenix Network would provide unique insights. They're unbelievable. I fumed to Zoe. They disown me, then try to use my success to boost their own profiles. So call them out, she suggested. Publicly. That would mean acknowledging them, giving them importance they don't deserve. Or, William interjected, having overheard our conversation. You could do something much more powerful. What's that? His smile was pure mischief, an expression I'd never seen on my straight-laced brother. Succeed so spectacularly that everyone knows the truth. You did this despite them, not because of them. That became our mission. Not just building a successful company, but creating something so undeniably revolutionary that no one could question who deserved the credit. The opportunity came when CNBC contacted us about their special series Disruptors, Reshaping Business in America. The producer wanted to feature Phoenix as the centerpiece of an episode on alternative business models. They'll do a live interview from our studio in New York, the producer explained. We're hoping to showcase not just the business model but the human story behind it. It was perfect a national platform to tell our story on our terms. What I didn't know was that my parents had been working their connections behind the scenes, maneuvering to insert themselves into the narrative. 2 days before the scheduled interview, William received a call from a college friend who worked at the network. Just thought you should know, the friend said. There's been a special request for audience seats for the Phoenix segment, Richard and Catherine Anderson. The producer was excited, apparently they're claiming to be family of the founder. William relayed this information during our daily leadership meeting. They're actually going to show up. I was incredulous. After everything, it's a power play, Marcus analyzed. They want to force a public reconciliation, where you can't refuse without looking petty. So what do we do? Aiden asked. Cancel the interview. I thought about it for a long moment, remembering every dismissal, every cruel word, every calculated attack. Then, slowly, a smile spread across my face. No, I decided. We give them exactly what they want, front row seats to the show. The CNBC studios in Manhattan embodied everything I'd rejected about my former life, sleek, sophisticated, and engineered for appearance rather than substance. As the makeup artist applied the final touches before my segment, I caught sight of the audience through the monitor. There they were, in the front row as arranged Richard and Catherine Anderson, impeccably dressed and wearing expectant expressions. They hadn't spotted the camera yet, and I watched as my mother fussed with her pearl necklace while my father checked his watch with characteristic impatience. 5 minutes, Miss Anderson, a production assistant announced. Rebecca. Zoe appeared at my side, tension evident in her stance. Are you sure about this? We could still have security remove them. I shook my head. No. Let them stay. Doctor. Sarah Mendez, my former professor who had become both mentor and friend, squeezed my arm supportively. She had flown in specifically for this interview, understanding the personal significance beyond the business opportunity. Remember what we discussed, she said quietly. Focus on your journey, not your grievances. Your success is the best response to their rejection. The studio lights brightened as the host, Diane Powell, took her position across from me. We're live in 30 seconds, called the director. I straightened my spine, channeling the poise my mother had drilled into me through years of etiquette lessons, but infusing it with an authenticity she had never managed to teach. And we're live in 3, 2. Welcome back to Disruptors, Diane began smoothly. I'm here with Rebecca Anderson, founder and CEO of Phoenix Network, the revolutionary business platform recently valued at over $1 billion. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. Thank you for having me, Diane. Phoenix has completely reimagined how small businesses operate collectively. Before we dive into the model, I'm curious about your path. You didn't take the traditional route to Silicon Valley success. I smiled. No, I didn't. My journey began on my 18th birthday, actually. The camera cut briefly to the audience, capturing my parents' self-satisfied smiles. They clearly expected me to acknowledge their presence, perhaps even credit their influence. Instead, I continued. That was the day I was presented with disownment papers by my family, who disagreed with my decision to study business instead of law. Their expressions froze. The camera lingered on them for a second longer than necessary before returning to me. Disownment papers. Diane looked genuinely shocked. That's unusually formal. My family has always been thorough, I replied dryly. I left home that day with one suitcase and worked multiple jobs to put myself through Stanford. I proceeded to outline my journey, the early struggles, the development of SmallSphere, the systematic attacks that destroyed it, and finally, the Phoenix-like resurrection of our current company. I never directly named my father as the saboteur, but the implication was clear to anyone familiar with corporate tactics. That's an extraordinary story of resilience, Diane commented. What kept you going through those setbacks? The conviction that business doesn't have to be predatory to be successful, I answered. Traditional business models often create winners by ensuring others lose. Phoenix proves there's another way: collaborative success. The interview shifted to the technical aspects of our platform and our plans for expansion. Throughout, I maintained professional composure, never looking directly at my parents but acutely aware of their presence. As we neared the end of the segment, Diane asked the question I'd been anticipating. Your business model emphasizes community and mutual support. Did that emerge from your personal experience of having to succeed without a family safety net? I paused, choosing my words carefully. Phoenix was born from necessity, but evolved through vision. When traditional support structures fail you, you can either break or innovate. We chose innovation. The camera cut briefly to my parents again. My mother was staring straight ahead, her social mask firmly in place despite the slight tremor in her hands. My father's expression was thunderous, barely contained anger evident in his rigid posture, and it's paid off remarkably. Diane noted as graphics displayed our growth metrics. $1 billion valuation in under 2 years is almost unheard of. The valuation reflects the collective strength of our network, not just our company, I emphasized. Our success belongs to the thousands of businesses who trusted our vision and built it with us. As the segment concluded, I thanked Diane and removed my microphone. The production assistant guided me toward the green room, but I knew what was coming. Sure enough, my parents were already waiting there, having been escorted through a side entrance. My mother moved forward first, arms outstretched for a camera-ready reconciliation. "Rebecca, darling, we're so proud." "Stop." My voice was quiet but firm. "This isn't happening, Mother." My father stepped forward, his attorney face unreasonable, authoritative. "That was quite a performance out there. Dramatic license aside, we should discuss how to move forward as a family now that your project has proven viable." "Viable," I repeated incredulously. "Phoenix is valued at $1 billion. It's not a project, it's one of the fastest-growing companies in tech history. And we're pleased." He continued smoothly, as if I hadn't spoken. "Which is why we're prepared to put the past behind us. Your mother has already informed our social circle of your return to the family." The audacity was breathtaking. Dr. Mendez, who had entered the room behind me, made a small noise of disbelief. "Let me be very clear," I said, meeting my father's gaze directly. "There is no return to the family. You made your choice on my 18th birthday. I've made mine every day since. Don't be childish, Rebecca," my mother snapped, her pleasant facade slipping. "You've made your point. Now it's time to be practical." "Practical?" I laughed. "Like when you cut off your daughter for choosing Stanford over Harvard? Or when Dad systematically sabotaged my first company because it threatened his sense of control?" "I did no such thing," my father blustered, though his eyes shifted away a tell I remembered from childhood when he was lying. "Save it for someone who doesn't know you, Richard," Dr. Mendez interjected. "The evidence is substantial and documented." My father's attention snapped to her. "And who exactly are you to interfere in a family matter?" "Dr. Sarah Mendez. I'm the person who believed in Rebecca when her family didn't. One of many, actually." My father dismissed her with a glance and turned back to me. "This pointless rebellion has gone on long enough. The Anderson name could open doors for your company that would take years to access otherwise. Phoenix doesn't need the Anderson name," I replied calmly. "And neither do I." He changed tactics, lowering his voice to the reasonable tone he used for reluctant clients. "We're offering a partnership, Rebecca. My firm's connections, combined with your platform, could be mutually beneficial." The use of my firm rather than our family told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about reconciliation, it was about acquisition, claiming credit and control over something he couldn't destroy. "I already have all the partners I need," I said, gesturing toward Dr. Mendez and the door through which Zoe and the team waited. People who stood by me when it mattered, not just when it became advantageous. My mother's composure fractured completely. "After everything we've done for you." "That's precisely the point. Mother. What exactly have you done for me in the past 14 years? Besides trying to destroy what I built." Security appeared at the door. Marcus had anticipated this confrontation and arranged for their presence. "Is everything all right, Miss Anderson?" "Yes," I replied, not taking my eyes off my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson were just leaving." "This isn't over," my father warned, his voice dropping to the dangerous tone I remembered from childhood confrontations. "You think you've won, but you're playing in my world now. The higher you climb, the harder we can make you fall." I stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gray in his impeccably dyed hair. "That's where you're wrong, Dad. I'm not playing in your world. I've built my own, and you have no power there." I nodded to security, who moved forward to escort them out. As they reached the door, I called after them, "Oh, and don't worry about using the Anderson name in your press releases anymore. After today's interview, everyone will know exactly what kind of family support I had." As they disappeared down the hallway, Dr. Mendez put her arm around my shoulders. "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath, surprised to find that I felt neither vindication nor grief, just a profound sense of closure. "I am, actually. For the first time in years, I really am." 1 year after the CNBC interview, I stood at the podium in Stanford's Memorial Auditorium, looking out at the sea of graduation caps and eager faces. Being invited to deliver the commencement address at my alma mater felt like coming full circle. the ultimate validation of the path I'd chosen 14 years earlier. Phoenix had transformed from a unicorn startup into a stable, influential force in the business world. Our valuation had climbed to $3 billion, but more importantly, our impact had grown exponentially. The Phoenix model had been adopted across industries, changing how small businesses competed in markets previously dominated by corporate giants. Your diploma isn't just certification of your academic achievements, I told the graduates. It's a reminder of your power to choose your own path, especially when that path diverges from others' expectations. In the audience, I spotted Zoe, who had recently been named COO after her tireless work building the company. Beside her sat Dr. Mendez, beaming with mentor's pride. William was there too, having fully separated himself from our parents' influence to become not just my brother again, but a valued friend and colleague. Success isn't measured by the size of your bank account or the prestige of your title, I continued. It's measured by the lives you touch, the problems you solve, and the communities you strengthen. This wasn't just commencement rhetoric, it was the philosophy that had guided our most recent venture, the Phoenix Foundation. Using 10% of our profits, we had established a program specifically designed to support young entrepreneurs from challenging backgrounds. The foundation provided not just funding but comprehensive support, housing assistance, mentorship, healthcare, childcare, all the practical needs that could derail promising ideas before they had a chance to flourish. We had already helped launch over 50 new businesses, with a particular focus on founders who, like me, had been cut off from family support. My therapy journey had taught me that true healing comes not just from personal success, but from transforming pain into purpose. Each young entrepreneur we supported was a form of resistance against the toxic belief systems that prioritized control over nurturing potential. After the ceremony, I was approached by a young woman clutching her diploma with determination in her eyes. "Your CNBC interview changed my life," she told me. "My parents threatened to cut me off if I didn't go to medical school. I showed them your story and said they could support my business degree or lose me forever. They chose me." Stories like hers had become increasingly common since the interview went viral. I had inadvertently become a symbol for those navigating complicated family dynamics while pursuing their own dreams. "I'm glad they made the right choice," I told her sincerely. Later that evening, a small celebration dinner gathered those who had become my chosen family: Zoe and her husband, Dr. Mendez, and her partner, William, Aiden, Taylor, Marcus, and his daughters, Grandma Elizabeth, now our Chief Wisdom Officer, and a handful of others who had been instrumental in the Phoenix journey. To Rebecca, Grandma toasted, raising her glass, "Who showed us all that family is defined by love and support, not DNA." "And to all of you," I countered, "who taught me that losing one family doesn't mean you can't build another." William tapped his glass gently. "I have some news," he announced. "I spoke with James yesterday." The table quieted. James had remained firmly in our father's camp after the CNBC confrontation, doubling down on attempts to discredit Phoenix through legal challenges that ultimately proved fruitless. "Hess left Dad's firm," William continued. "Apparently, the Technology Innovation Division was shuttered after 3 major clients left following our interview. Is he okay?" I asked, surprised to find I genuinely cared. "Hess. Reevaluating. Asked if we could meet next time. I'm in New York." William smiled wryly. "I think seeing you succeed so definitively might have cracked Dad's narrative." I nodded, feeling neither vindication nor anger, just a quiet acknowledgement that healing sometimes spreads in unexpected directions. My parents themselves remained firmly estranged. My father had made one last attempt at contact, a formal cease and desist letter, demanding we stop using certain business methodologies he claimed were derived from Anderson family practices. Our legal team had dismantled the claim so thoroughly that no further communication followed. Mother occasionally surfaced in social media, still attempting to associate herself with my success in increasingly transparent ways. I had learned to set boundaries there too, having our PR team issue simple, factual corrections when necessary without engaging directly. "I have an announcement too," I said, as dessert was served. "The Phoenix Academy launches next month. Full scholarships for 50 students from backgrounds similar to mine, with guaranteed internships at Phoenix or our partner companies." This project had been my personal passion for months, creating the educational experience I wished I'd had, combining practical business skills with emotional intelligence and community building. "You're building quite a legacy," Dr. Mendez observed. though not the one your father envisioned. That's the point, I replied. Legacy isn't something inherited, it's something created. Every day, with every choice. Later that night, alone in my apartment overlooking San Francisco Bay, I opened my laptop to find an email from a name I didn't recognize. The subject line read simply, "Thank you for Phoenix." It was from a small bookstore owner in Maine, detailing how our network had saved not just her business but her entire town's Main Street. Before Phoenix, we were just separate businesses trying to survive, she wrote. Now we're a community thriving together. Attached was a photo of a dozen small business owners standing proudly in front of their shops, a Phoenix Network sign displayed prominently in the center. This, I realized, was the true measure of success, not the billion-dollar valuation, not the speaking engagements, not even the vindication of proving my father wrong. Success was creating something that allowed others to succeed too, something that would continue growing and strengthening long after I stepped away. I had started this journey alone, disowned and determined to prove my worth. I would continue it surrounded by a family of my own making, focused not on proving anything, but on building something that mattered. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't planned at all. It's simply living well, on your own terms, and creating the kind of world you wish had been there for you when you needed it most. If there's one thing I've learned on this journey, it's that being cut off from what you thought you needed can sometimes be the push that leads you to what you were meant to build all along. What parts of my story resonated with you the most? Have you ever had to choose between following expectations or forging your own path? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story inspired you, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes being disowned is just the first step to owning your future. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, success is the best response to rejection.